Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. So today we're finally going to talk about the Brandon Sanderson secret projects. So this is secret project number 1. The story is called Tress of the Emerald Sea. It is a Cosmere novel, and Brandon basically said all of the secret projects except for one is a Cosmere novel, so it's not very surprising. But I'm really excited that the first one that's released is a Cosmere novel, because, I love me some Cosmere. So we're here to talk about it today. So we're going to talk non-spoiler thoughts first. We're going to talk general character stuff and like kind of plot and stuff. And then we're going to jump over to spoilers. We can talk in more detail. So with that being said, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already, and let's begin. So, Tress of the Emerald Sea. This story is really, really cool. I like it. It really feels like older Brandon Sanderson, like, his books from a while ago, ones that don't really have any influence from the fandom or any expectations put on it. Because some of his more recent stuff, you can feel the outside influence, at least I can. And in this one, it really feels like it's just purely him. And I really, really like it because of that. It has this fun kind of energy to it that a lot of his older stuff has. Like, it reminds me a little bit of like the first 4 Alcatraz books, even though those are like young grade, middle grade books. And this is kind of more young adult to adult fantasy. The tone of it is kind of similar in that way. And I just really, really enjoy it. I like when Brandon kind of cuts loose and kind of makes little comments and stuff while telling the story. Kind of like he lets out his little writer humor a lot. He has like a lot of that in there, a lot of little snarky kind of comments he likes to make about his profession. And he kind of allows that to shine in this. So the story itself is really a hero's journey kind of story, but couched in a lot of character development. Some really, really deep and like thick, awesome character development. So a lot of that kind of trope-ish stuff of the hero's journey is present, but it is very much done in a different way, in the classic Sanderson way, where it's like everything's very much different. It's very alien, but it's familiar, but it's different in a way that makes it feel completely new. So it's just a lot of fun in that way. It feels like a really interesting shard world. I don't even think it's a shard world, but it's a very interesting world in the Cosmere that makes you just think about the nature of the alienness of the world building he's done. A lot of the worlds, to me at least recently, feel very familiar. Like there are different biomes that we're familiar with on Earth and stuff, essentially. But this world is so completely different and so alien. It's just a lot of fun. I really like that a lot. The hero's journey stuff leads into this great character development, which has this wonderful pacing that I think is very typical of a hero's journey. It kind of has this very, very typical incline. But knowing, Brandon Sanderson, we got to have a Sanderlanche at the end, in which we totally do. So it definitely ramps up at the end. The pace gets going at a breakneck speed. And everything just like really culminates in a really fun way. Like, of course, Brandon stuff does. And we got a lot of interesting, just fun little tidbits from the Cosmere. If you're a world building fan and a huge Cosmere lore fan and stuff, there's a lot of stuff in here that you'll just really, really eat up. Like, I was just like, whoa, this is awesome. This is awesome. I never thought about that. Wow, that's a whole concept. This is the whole thing. There's just so much of that. It's just a lot of fun. The voice of the story is unique because Brandon uses this framing device that harkens back to different stories in the Cosmere. It is basically a story that Hoyd, Wit, Saphandrius, one of the oldest characters in the Cosmere, is telling to someone else, and we kind of get it we get a full long form of it. So similar to like he's telling Kaladin a story, or he's telling Shallan a story, or anyone else a story, but we get a full long form of it. So it's really, really interesting in that angle. So the entire framing device makes it extra unique, and it kind of whets our appetite for hearing more from the POV of Hoyd. And it's just like, whoa, it's just so fun. I like it a lot. And it's honestly hard to talk about it without spoiling more stuff, because I want to get more specifics about the stuff I really like. So yes, if you haven't read it, if you didn't back the Kickstarter, I think you'll still be able to get access to either the audiobook or the physical copy. I think sometime later this month, I think like January 10th is when it'll be on like regular sale or something. So I definitely recommend you read it, check it out, get into all the fun lore of it. And yes, let's talk about it in the comments below. So we're going to go ahead and jump in the spoiler section. So if you've read it, let's go ahead. And if you haven't and you don't care about it, join us. So yeah, spoilers for Tress of the Emerald Sea. So let me start off and talk about the world building. I love Brandon's world building so much. I love the subtle, slow reveal that this is an Aether world and that we kind of find out that this isn't even the primary Aether world. It's so interesting. And then, like, all these different Aethers, and they work so completely different than I expected because we got the last instance of Aethers we got was from a character from a recent book, but their Aethers work completely differently, more Green Lantern equivalent. But like a lot of the Aethers here work very differently, and we kind of even get a little hint as to the bond that an individual can have with them and stuff. So there's just so much about it. I didn't expect it at all. It just I was kind of hoping that we would get something, from a distant Shard world or a distant Cosmere world with some just lore that we haven't gotten before. And this is exactly what I wanted. I'm so excited that we got this. And it is so fascinating, so intriguing. And it's also a pirate story. It's really interesting that it's a pirate story. I didn't think about the context of like a pirate type story in the Cosmere. And it's just done so well. They're on a sea that's not even water. And it's just like, it's a unique kind of concept and stuff. And even the logic and the scientific reasoning behind the way that the spores are able to behave like water. It makes a lot of sense because it's a real life scientific process and stuff. So it just works really well. Brandon did a really, really good job with the world building here and the expansion of the magic system and just kind of whetting our appetites for what I think still might be Aether of Night. I don't know what it'll be when he does the official Aether World book, but oh my goodness, it's so much fun. It's so fun. I like it a lot. And most of the world building fun stuff that I really like wasn't even revealed until later. So my excitement for it, that just kind of added on to it because before we got into the major reveals of the world building and stuff, we got this really, really interesting character. So our main character, Tress, I really like her. I think she's a really unique main protagonist, especially one that is being couched in this very classic hero's journey kind of tale. I think it's really, really cool the way that she's so content with being just so utterly and completely average. And like her parents basically give her a classic parent line. Like there's so much extraordinary about you that nothing in particular stands out. So like you seem just ordinary or whatever, but you're actually extraordinary. Classic parental stuff, and I really like that too because it's just in a very easy way shows how much her parents really do love her, and the way when she finds out the guy that she loves has basically been captured by the sorceress on an island or whatever. She basically immediately makes the decision that she has to go and she has to go rescue him and stuff. And the fact that her parents sit there and like realistically talk to her about it and sit there and think about it and truly consider it. Don't dismiss it at all. It's so indicative of the fact that she made the decision to immediately go talk to them, which is one of the things Hoyt directly points out that she is a character unlike most characters in stories like this and that she has brains, like she has forethought and consideration and she's like humble and cautious and stuff like this in a way that a lot of these types of characters just are not. And it's just really, really cool and a whole lot of fun that Brandon decided to make her like this, and it's really unique. And I really like the little quirk of her collection of cups and stuff. But then I love the way the metaphor of the cups are just like an expression of culture, and like it's not the cups themselves, it's how they're different from other cups and stuff. He just has so much fun commentary and stuff in this book, and I like it so much. I love this unfettered Brandon that is unencumbered by extra influence, and it is really just like his brain pouring out these ideas. I really like it, and I can really tell the difference, and it is just so much fun. It's such a good story. I just finished it, so I'm very much in a rambling mood. But let's go ahead and continue talking about it a little bit more. So I've talked about the world building. I think it's awesome. I love the expansion of the magic and the way we get our appetites whetted with some Aether stuff and this visual, just the visual beauty of the world that he describes, the way it's their oceans of spores and stuff, and like just the visual nature of it is so completely alien while being familiarly beautiful in a lot of ways. It's just done so awesome. I really like the ideas a lot. So I like the world building. I like the expansion of the Cosmere. I like the main character that we got. And I really like the crew that we come to meet on the pirate ship that she ends up on. They're a lot of fun and they're really loyal. They remind me a lot of like a Bridge 4 crew, but a little bit of the crew from Elantris and stuff, like Giadan and some of them that are around Raoden. Like I love the way the Brandon is able to create these character dynamics and these group of characters that really go from being complete strangers to really legitimately feeling like a family in no time at all. He's really good at creating those kind of dynamics, and I really love to read about him. I guess as a continuation of the world building, Brandon makes a lot of hints to other worlds and stuff. So one of the characters in the book, he's deaf, and he has this kind of it's kind of like a whiteboard, kind of like a lot of people will use where they write messages back and forth instead of him having to rely on reading lips, because very few people know sign language and stuff like that. So he has this board that he basically taps on, and it basically pulls out, like, it says all the words that he's thinking, and it kind of works in it's basically hyper advanced tech. And then Hoyd, being the narrator of the story, mentions that it's Nalthian tech. It comes from Nalthus, and it uses like awakened circuits or something. And then I'm like, what? Like, it blew my mind. I'm like, so we have, I mean, I know Magitech is going to be a thing on probably every world, like the expansion of the magic systems, because they're just really different aspects of the science of these worlds and stuff. So to expand them through technology and stuff makes perfect sense. So I'm not surprised that Nalthus at some point would eventually get to this kind of technology. But then it just leads me to wonder, like, where in the Cosmere timeline is this story? How far from Warbreaker does that kind of tech happen? Like, where does it exist? When does it exist, I guess? Like, or did it exist on other parts that we just didn't see in, Warbreaker or whatever? Maybe it's technology that exists on another continent or something, and it's still within a contemporary timeline. Otherwise, I'm like, how far away, when, how, timeline, confusion. So I'm just like all of that. So it kind of just blew my mind. But then it just got my mind going on like the levels of technology Nalthian tech could totally go for. Because like just the idea of like awakened locks and stuff like that, which we've already gotten the idea and concept for before. But then we continue going with these other things, and then it just goes and goes and goes. And I was like, whoa. But then that was just like a little bit of crumb. That was like a little bitty crumb. But we have the villain in the story who is a sorceress. She cursed Hoyd, who at the time in the story, he's like a cabin boy, and he's like speaking gibberish and like all this kind of stuff because he's under a curse. And I thought it was very fascinating that this book has a situation wherein that someone can be cursed in that way, where we have this very classical expression of magic where we haven't seen a lot of that in the Cosmere. And the most obvious answer as to who it was, or not who it was, but what type of magic could do this kind of thing, didn't really occur to me. But the fact that the person, the sorceress, is ultimately an Elantrian who's basically camping out on this planet because no one on this planet can really defeat them at all, because they're such a primitive planet compared to their magic and their technology and stuff that they have, because they're world hoppers, so they got all kinds of extra stuff that they figure they'll just go there and be big fish in a small pond and hang out. But like, they're an Elantrian. So it's so obvious, but yet not obvious, that yes, an Elantrian would be able to do these things, because Elantrian magic, Aeon Door, is probably the most versatile magic system in the entire Cosmere, because it is the closest thing to outright classical conjuration magic expression that exists in the Cosmere. And it was so clear, so obvious, but I didn't see it. So I just loved it so much that it just completely went over my head, because I was sitting there trying to think about, like, maybe this is just a whole other use of investiture. Maybe they were able to, maybe just this world has a way of expressing it more like classical magic than, other worlds do. And it just, it's something brand new. I didn't really expect it to be something so familiar. So getting all these hints to these little familiar worlds and these other things, how we have the surgeon on the ship, he's a Khandra who is just so much fun. I have the audiobook, so I listen to the audiobook, and the way Michael Kramer speaks for the Khandra is so funny. The way I can't do that. I'm not even going to try to do it justice, but he has an accent, and it's like just bad British accent, but he always goes, like, like everything, he'll like ask and say something, it's like blah, 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 blah. It is just so hilarious to me. I thought it was just the most fun little quirk that they add. But then there's this offhanded comment of like Hoyd saying, yeah, they're not the same ever since Sazed released them. See, I don't know if that is in reference to him releasing them from like, being so rigid that they're able to have their own personalities in the same way Melan does, and the way they're all, just developing themselves as people instead of being copies of humans. I don't know if it's in reference to that, so that will put them in a contemporary timeline as like Era 2 Mistborn, or if this is something in reference to something that happens later, which could be a sign of a hint that we got in a previous book. So it's just got me going like, what could it mean? Like, what could it be? Like, just so so as you can tell, I am very, very, very much in a rambling mood about this. This really gets me going. I love it so much. It was a lot of fun. I really like the story a lot. I really can't wait for it to be expanded on. I can't wait to get more from Hoyt's POV. I can't wait to see more Cosmere stuff. So this was a lot of fun. I don't know how long this is. I've already been rambling for quite a while. So let's see if there's anything more to talk about before I go ahead and sign off. Oh, two more things. One thing that I completely didn't even mention and just kind of wiped over. The talking rat thing, the talking animal thing. So I was very confused for a minute. I was like, wait, this isn't like, it's just having a classical talking animal, very Disney-esque type magic was very confusing for me for a minute. And then I couldn't like figure out what type of magic system we've seen in the Cosmere could allow for something like this. So it left me just really confused. So I'm like, is this Brandon just introducing more hyper whimsical stuff that's just kind of, I don't know, is a little weird or whatever? But then when we got the reveal that the sorceress is an Elantri, and I'm like, oh, it makes total sense. Because theoretically, with Aeon Door, you totally could turn someone into a rat. Like, probably wouldn't be difficult at all. Like, because the Aeons are so ridiculously versatile, so it made so much sense. So the reveal that Huck was Charlie, I was like, that is awesome. Because I just knew, based on all the character development Tress was getting, she wasn't going to be able to just go back and be, the same person she was and be with the guy or whatever. So I assumed that either they weren't going to be together, she was going to go off into the sunset with the crew and everything, and that was just going to end that relationship, or something else would have to happen. So by Brandon having him change through this journey and she change also, but they changed in complementary ways, meaning that they basically kept up with each other and were able to stay with each other, and the romance and everything was able to continue while they got to go live this awesome life and stuff. And it's just really, really cool. It's really well done. It's nice and heartwarming and stuff. But the other thing, the last thing I want to talk about is we got a dragon. We actually got a dragon. We got, yes, cultivation is a spoiler. Cultivation is a dragon, but this is the first dragon we get, and we get a canonical reference and a canonical visual for Dragonsteel, which I thought was so cool. Like, the company is called Dragonsteel. It's like a huge thing for Brandon. Dragonsteel, and now we know Dragonsteel is basically a part of dragons that makes this awesome calligraphy kind of filigree type design around them, and it like goes into their horns and stuff, but it's like non-degradable. So even when they die, it just leaves this ethereal kind of unknown metal left behind, which is Dragonsteel. And there probably is all sorts of implications or uses for it. Could you imagine a hemalurgic spike made out of Dragonsteel? What would that do? Could an Alamancer burn Dragonsteel? What would that do? Like, is it property similar to a god metal, but probably just less than, like what would it do? Like, so there's just so much. There's just so much to feast upon, and I just love it so much. There's so much to speculate on. I just want more. I want a couple more hints so I can speculate more and like actually dig into it and stuff. But yes, I guess I'm going to go ahead and end this ramble session. Let me know in the comments below if you want me to make a part 2 and talk a little bit more about the other little nuanced things. Then we can probably ramble some more if you're into it. But otherwise, this has been my review of Tress of the Emerald Sea, the first project in Brandon's secret projects. The year of Sanderson has begun. I am excited. I hope you are too. Let me know in the comments down below what you think about the story, what your hopes are for the next 3 secret project books. And yeah, let's go ahead and talk about that in the comments. So as always, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already, and I will talk to you all next time. Peace.